Hi friends, welcome back to Arc Tutorials. This is React.js full tutorial series for absolute beginners. In the last few episodes, we learned how to pass props, how to handle events, how to pass data back from child to parent. In this episode, we are going to learn all about lifecycle methods. This is important for an understanding purpose also because some of you might also work in an existing project which have been written in as a class component and you will see this code. However, from React 16.8 version, it's fully functional components that's much easier. But like I said, if you join a company and they have written already existing code base, chances are you will run into lifecycle methods. And hence, here I am explaining you all the lifecycle methods that you should know about. Let's get started. This is part 21 of the series. I have covered everything about React.js from basic to advanced, so make sure that you go through each of the tutorials. That would really help you learn and master React with me. Today we are learning about React lifecycle methods. In React, class components have a series of lifecycle methods. Okay, methods are nothing but functions that a particular component goes through during each component lifecycle. And lifecycle is nothing but from start to destroy, right? Right from constructor to creation to mounting and to destroy. These methods allows us to perform actions or side effects at specific times in the component's existence. For example, when the component is mounted, component will mount, component did update, etc. These are all specific things that we need at certain time. However, it's important, like I said, to note that React hooks in React 16.8 onwards, you don't really write lifecycle methods anymore because for functional components we use state, use effects, etc. Okay, but like I said, if you join a legacy project, you will see such code, so you should know what they are. Let's learn about that and then do the hands-on. First and the foremost is a constructor. Okay, now constructor is called as soon as an instance of the component is being created. Whenever a component is created, the first thing that gets triggered is the constructor. Now we use constructor to set the values, to initialize the states, and to bind events. The next lifecycle method is component did mount. This method is called after the component has been inserted into the DOM. Initially, the DOM will be empty, right? Because React is a single page application. As and when a component is called and inserted into DOM, that's when component did mount will load. It's often used for data fetching, setting up subscriptions, etc. Should component update method. Now this method is called before a component re-renders. That means once data is updated or state is updated, your component will re-render. That's when this particular component is called. Component did update. Now this is called after a component's update has been flushed to the DOM. Okay, it's commonly used for side effects that depend on previous props and state. Component will unmount. That means once the component is removed from the DOM, DOM is nothing but document object model. Whenever you remove the component from the DOM, that's when this particular method will be called. Component did catch. Now this is called whenever there is an error in rendering. Let's say component was not able to render for some reason, this particular method, which is component did catch, will get triggered. Then we have the get derived state from props. Right now this static method is called whenever new props are received. Whenever you pass props to a particular child, this particular method will receive them first, and that's when you can do some operations or changes that you want in the props. Get snapshot before update. Now this method is called right before changes from render are reflected into the DOM. Okay, now these are all the different methods that gets through a particular class component, and like I said, you will see this in the code whenever you work on. So I'm going to create a code for you where I'll cover all of this. So let's jump into hands-on. Alright, so what I'll do, I'll create a new component for you and I'll call it let's call it life cycle method component. Bad, right? So let's just call it life cycle method uh, .js, of course. Alright, so let's do that, and we are going to, since this is a class component we are building, let's just do React and we'll also bring in component. Okay, the next thing we'll do, it's a class component, so we are going to write the name and say life cycle method. Okay, and then we'll write extends. What is it that we are trying to build? A component. This is how you define a class component in React. And the other way was functional. I've covered that in the during earlier in the series, so make sure that you go through it. The first lifecycle method is the constructor, which is nothing but simple. I'm just saying this will get the props, so I'm just saying super props, and then you can change the state, etc., but for now I'm just adding hello component. Okay, so this is whenever this component is called, the first thing that gets triggered is constructor. Okay, so let's write constructor. All right, the next thing that we will implement is the static. And what this will do is get derived state from props. Okay, derived state from props. That's the um, name of the lifecycle method. Now you can also alternatively pass state and just do a console log. For now we are not doing anything, just learning how to use the lifecycle methods. So I'm calling, this is called, and we will not return anything, just say return null. The next we'll do is component did mount. Okay, and do again, we'll just log console just to see the messages of the state and the life cycle. So this is component did mount, should component update. Then here again you will pass um, say you want to pass some whatever, right? You, in ideal cases you will pass, let's say, props or next state, etc., but for now, like I said, we are interested in the life cycle methods. All right, so should component, so that is 1 2 3 4. The next one, I think it's called should, or let's say component did update. Okay, we implemented component did mount, so now I'm doing component did update. All right, let's do a called. Let's do one thing here, we are just returning null. All right, that was component did update. Now let's also implement component will unmount, and components will unmount called. And the last one is component did catch error, right? So did catch, and here what we will do, we will get an error and we'll get the respective info, so you can just do that, you can display that error or work with it. That's all you need as part of the lifecycle methods. Okay, now let's just implement the render. It's a class component, which means you will have to write the render. In functional components we directly write return. Okay, that's the difference. Again, if you haven't checked out that tutorials, please do that. I have covered all of that in detail. Okay, so I'm calling render called, that means now the rendering has started, and then we will do a return. And here remember, it's a root level, so at the top we'll always define one, and then let's just put in, say, component life cycle methods tutorial. Now all we'll do is just do a button, right? I want to show you states, but I have not covered that, so that's why I'm not um, showing that for now. Update but let me write it for you. If you can follow along, it's good. If not, it is still fine, so don't stress too much. Okay. um, so you can do on click, we'll say this dot set state, and we can set the state and get the data. Okay. uh, that's something that I can define it in the component. And what I'll do is, after supers, I'm going to just say this dot state equal to, okay. You can give any message, or whatever you want to put it here, but I'm just saying hello world. Okay, that's a simple message I'm putting in the state. Now you can use this state in different places and update it. Okay, so for now, to keep it extremely simple, I'm just doing a on click. And what we will do on click, we will just say that it's a function. All this should do is update the state message, right? And we can also otherwise just say this dot set state and set the message to hello button clicked. Okay, so even if you're not following this particular piece, don't stress too much. Like I said, in the next episode I'm covering the use state and all that, so we'll go step by step. This is just purely um, to show you how the life cycle methods will look. I want you to see that in action. That's why I'm typing this extra code. Okay, so I have written all the life cycle methods for this particular component. The last step that is pending now is to export this class. So we'll write export default, and then you would just say lifecycle method. Okay, so what you're doing now, we have implemented all of the lifecycle methods. We are passing the state and we are setting the state button clicked, and we are just updating that state and just following up with the lifecycle methods. So copy this component, go to your app.js, and before the loan component just put that, close it. Now you need to import this as well, so I'm going to say lifecycle method from lifecycle method. So this is done. Let's go back to our application. So now you can see lifecycle component methods tutorial is coming up. Go to console, and I'm going to refresh, and you can see hello from constructor component. Get derived state is called, get derived state from pops is called, render called, component did mount, component will unmount, component did mount, right? So when I click again, you see get derived state from props is called because states are getting updated. Should component update is called, right? So you can see the series of life cycle components that has been called. Okay, I think let's fix that somewhere. I think there is a class name that's called, I'm not sure in which one. So this error is because of that class name. Somewhere I've used class, so we can fix that. But take a look again. Whenever you click, the data will be updated accordingly. As soon as you launch the component, as soon as the component is rendered, you can see render called, get derived state, component did mount, component will unmount, component did mount, right? So those are the series of life cycle methods that a particular component will go through. All right, I hope I have covered all the 8 and it's clear. Like I said, you will be using hooks, right? So in the next episode I'll start covering about hooks, especially use state, use effect, etc., which are extremely critical in today's world. I'm taking it step by step. Please do pause, please do ask me questions. If you have any, I would be happy to help you. Thank you so much for joining. In the next episode, I'll be covering hooks and not use state, but I'll give an overview of hooks and then I'll start use state. Okay. Thank you. Thank you so much for joining. Let's continue the learning. Please do share your love with me. Please do like, share, and subscribe to my channel. Thank you.